I choose Ben Richards. Oh, Richards is a runner. You've got to choose a stalker. I can choose who I want, and I choose Ben Richards. That boy's one mean motherfucker. Hey folks, Kiltman here, Kiltman at your services. How are you all? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Keep on running. The Running Man, yes. Cheeseball action aplenty, colourful, gaudy ridiculousness. It's popcorn fun. From 1987, Arnie Schwarzenegger stars as Ben Richards, shamed police copper, high-flying bastard accused of the Bakersfield Massacre, gets flung into the TV show The Running Man, where they've got to run for their lives from the stalkers, who've got buzzsaws, they've got flamethrowers, they've got all sorts of gadgets and fucking everything. Exploding hockey pucks and slice and dice sort of blades, and yeah, it's good, colourful fun. It also stars Maria Conchita Alonso, who I massively, massively loved back in the 80s. And part of me still does. God, she was such an adorable goddess back then. Of course, seen in the film Colours, and seen in Predator 2, and Extreme Prejudice, and many other movies. But she's the only one that can make that horrible canary yellow banana romper suit that the runners have got to wear, make it look sexy. Arnie looks ridiculous. How much extra did they have to pay him to put that stupid costume on? It really is pretty bad. Anyway, yeah, The Running Man. I've discussed it before. We're playing Harold Faltermeyer's outstanding synthesized score for it right now, and it is electrifying. Based on Stephen King writing as Richard Bachman, well, they call them novellas, but they actually were novels, to be honest. He wrote a series of these under the name of Richard Bachman, and The Running Man was just one of several. But two of them, The Long Walk and The Running Man, took dystopian futures and people in dire circumstances and put them through hell via a corrupt government, or in this case, a corrupt TV show, TV network. Everyone's impoverished. The world is on the brink of World War III again. Doesn't seem so fantastical now, does it? You know, everyone's skint. No one can afford medical bills. Poverty strikes everybody. But the one chance you've got in The Running Man, Stephen King's novel, is to, if you can survive long enough, you'll make money all the time, which go back to your family. But you are being hunted live on TV by a bunch of, well, they're called hunters in the novel, stalkers in the movie. And the longer you live, the more money you make. And if you can survive and kill all the hunters and any police officers as well, you make money from that as well. That's more, you know, you can make $1 billion, but it's rigged so it can never happen. Anyway, that was the novel. Paul Michael Glaser and Paramount, when they did their version of the movie, it was Arnie at the height of his game. You'd had Conan, you'd had Terminator, you'd had Commando, and you just had Predator. You're never going to top that movie. And they didn't with The Running Man. It was cheesy, it was popcorn, it was fun, it was goofy as all hell. He was reunited with Jesse Ventura, you know, and you had Richard Dawson playing Killian, who's the TV show host, and he's magnificent. And he has one of the best comeback lines to an Arnie quip you could ever expect. Arnie's much used, "I'll be back," as he's put into the pod to be exploded into the game zone at high speed. You land in that game zone, in that pod, boom, you're dead. Your spine will snap. There's no way you're going to survive that impact. But anyway, he says, "Killian, I'll be back." And Killian is shaken for a moment. He goes, "Only in a rerun." It's a killer quip, a killer comeback, and I love it. And The Running Man is getting a rerun, sort of. Paul Michael Glaser's version in '87 with Arnie is nothing at all like Stephen King's original novel. It's not. Apart from the character of Ben Richards, the character of Killian, and the fact it's a dystopian future, and it's a corrupt game show, and people have got to literally fight for their lives to make money, or just, in his case, just to survive, because he's a wanted man. He's an arch criminal, only he's not. He got set up in the movie. But that is very, very far from what Stephen King wrote, which was a really dark, nihilistic, truly horrible story. It really is. And we're going to get that story is coming. Courtesy of Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright, of all people. Shaun of the Dead, Spaced, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, Baby Driver, Last Night in Soho. Oh, wow. And everyone I've seen has been going like, well, he's not the guy for the job. What? Is it because, oh, some of his indie movies, his own personalised sort of fantasies, haven't really took off and made a lot of money? They've done reasonably well, I always thought. He's got to do one for them, one for the studio now. Edgar Wright's been a fan of The Running Man since he first read the novella. Loved that. Found it dark, bleak, but exciting and thrilling. And then loved the 80s version with Arnie, although knew that was clearly not at all what Stephen King wrote, and was much more fun and fantastical. Now, he's banged on about it for a while, and people in the industry have said to him a couple of times over the last few years, would you like to do this? If there's a version, a remake of The Running Man, would you like to do it? And he said, well, yeah, as much as I love The Running Man, the movie, I don't want to do a remake of that. I want to do the original version. I want to do an adaptation of that book. And you're like, okay. And now we're getting it. Yes, he's doing it. He's with Michael Bacall, who did Scott Pilgrim as well, is screenwriting it. And I think it's his story adaptation of Stephen King's original book. But Edgar Wright typically is involved in the screenplay as well. And it is going to be a surprisingly, hopefully, faithful adaptation of what Stephen King wrote. Now that presents a couple of big problems. Well, one very big problem. Now, folks, I'm afraid spoilers are going to be here. But spoilers for the book, which has been available since fucking, the early 80s. I think it came out in 82. I've got the compendium volume there of all the Batman books except for Thinner, which came out, which was published separately away from that. But The Running Man is in there. And it's a powerful story, but it's way different. Ben Richards in that book is, he's part of the underclass, the ruling elite live in lofty towers, and to keep the masses happy and satisfied, like the Colosseum, like the arena of ancient Rome, they put on these game shows which are genuinely life and death, and it distracts the vast masses from the polluted air, the slums that they're living in, and the harsh tyranny of the law and order system which they're living under the yoke of. And the seeds of a rebellion are there, but Ben Richards applies for this, undergoes psychological and medical tests to put him into it, because his wife's unemployed, his daughter is really sick, and they need medicine for her and surgery as well. So I'll put my life on the line to make money. And the way the game works, you can go anywhere in the world. You're given, I think it's a 12-hour head start, and the hunters will come after you. And you can assume different identities, you can travel anywhere, but you've got to do one thing every day. You've got to... The only allusion to the real future sort of technology, this is back in the early 80s when he wrote this, or when he published it anyway. A little handheld, video recorder, and he's got to do 2 videos a day, but he's got to mail them to the TV network. Old school, can't just upload it, But, so he has to do this. But hunters, if they find him, they'll kill him. And people on the outside, if they know it's him, they can report his location and make money out of that. So there's a huge incentive. Everyone's on the take. And it's really violent. Ben Richards will do a lot of unthinkable things. He will kill people. He'll blow things up. And at the end, I'm going to give you this because this is where a faithful adaptation of that story done today could be problematic. I mean, I've seen people saying this, and I kind of agree, but I think you could still do it. That's just my opinion. What he does, the final hunter closes down on him, and he gets injured, but he injures the hunter as well. He's took a woman hostage, and he manages to bluff his way onto a plane in Derry, Maine. Well, it would have to be, wouldn't it, if it's Stephen King writing it? And he says he's got explosives, he's got a bomb, so he bluffs his way onto the plane, and he's got the hunter, and he's got the girl with him as well. And Cillian, who's also in the Arnie movie as well, Cillian says to him, like, look, because he's communicating with him, look, listen, you know, you've done really well. You've gone further than anybody else. You've killed all the other hunters except for the prime hunter, McCone, I think his name is. And he says, like, look, kill him, and you can become the next hunter, and you know, the money will be yours and all that. So he gets the decision, and he's agonising over this. I've done this all for my wife and my daughter. And Cillian says to him, listen, you should know, your wife and daughter are dead. Shortly after we accepted you as a participant in the Running Man, intruders broke in, robbed the place and killed them. They're dead. And it's not a lie, they are dead. So what Ben Richards does in the end of the story, he kills the flight crew. I think he kills the hitman as well, but he gives a parachute to the girl he kidnapped, and like, she can escape, off you go, ta-ra, happy landings. And he overrides the autopilot, and he flies the plane into the TV network's central complex tower. So a lot of people have been saying, if you do a faithful adaptation of that, it's going to evoke memories of 9/11. Yeah, well, it probably will, but that's how the book ended. And so he kills himself, he destroys the TV network, kills Cillian as well. But his deeds, because he communicates a lot of this, I think he manages to, his last couple of videos, the world can see. Can't remember how that happens, but I'm sure he does it. And it does sow the seeds of a huge, you know, certainly nationwide in America, revolution. And a rebellion takes place, and you're led to believe it's going to overthrow this corrupt, tyrannical system. And live happily ever after in a polluted world full of, you know, further turmoil in other countries, nuclear weapons, and all sorts of anarchy taking place. So, happy landings indeed. But that's how it ends. So, people are saying you can't do that now. People will not take kindly to that kind of ending. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think Edgar Wright is gonna, you know, change things so dramatically to you know, we can't touch that. That is the ending. That's the ending of the story that he loved. The ending which is so far removed from the previous movie adaptation, which of course did end with the rebellion. Ben Richards, Arnie manages to, you know, uplink. They do a satellite uplink and show what happens to the real supposed winners of the game show. They're just skeletons, you know, toasted skeletons in a locker room somewhere. So no one ever wins the game. It's rigged so you can't win. But Arnie manages to win the crowd over. See again, Colosseum, Maximus, win the crowd and you win your freedom. I will win the crowd. I will show them something they've never seen before. Oh, you're not entertained? Oh God, well, I'm going off the wrong fucking track there. But so he manages to save the day again and save Amber, Maria Conchita Alonso, and get his revenge on Cillian, Richard Dawson. Puts him in, you know, one of these pods and like straps him in, and then sends him off, explosive rocket jets down the ramp. Whoa! But the crash mat's been removed, so he goes way and sails into the big appetizing slogan. Boom! But the revolution has been sparked. in no small part by Mick Fleetwood as well, playing a guy called Mick, who's part of the rebellion, you know. Not much of this stuff left. Don't worry, I'll be restocking shortly. Cheers, y'all. Oh dear. Now, I'm looking forward to this. It's only in the fast development stage at the moment. It's happening. It is definitely happening. They've already cast as Ben Richards Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell was in Top Gun Maverick. He's also in Anyone But You, a romantic comedy. He's about to be seen in Hitman, that's appropriate enough, and the sequel to Twister. Twisters! I don't really know his stuff. Top Gun Maverick, I'm one of the few in the world who hasn't seen the movie. Unbelievably, I love Top Gun and I love Tom Cruise, but I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick. Just haven't, folks. So I haven't seen Anyone But You. I think he was in Spy Kids as well, or something like that a few years ago. I don't know the guy. Now, he's not playing the Arnie Ben Richards. He's going to be playing this guy from this dystopian, horrific future, who's going to sacrifice himself. That's the plan. No one goes into the game show, The Running Man, expecting to win. They're fantasizing about winning the money, but it's really to send the money back home. So you're literally sacrificing yourself. And it's a great idea. And it's not even that far removed from reality TV these days. Oh, yeah, I know. They don't kill anyone. They don't hunt them down. We do have in the UK a TV show with celebrities on it who are hunted by cyber detectives, digital detectives, real detectives, and hit and run police snatch squads who pursue them all over the country. And they've got to be on the run, and it's actually really good. They're all real investigators and police people and genuine, you know, detectives and hunters who are after them. And they're running all over the place, and they've got to put disguises on and hide in, you know, safe houses. So you've got the concept of it already. Just they're not going to be killed when they get caught. Although, who wouldn't like, you know, the participants of Love Island to be buzzsawed and roasted, shot to bits, you know? Yeah, we'd like that, wouldn't we? I'd buy that for $1, you know. The TV shows have this reality thing. They are all the rage and have been for over a decade now, way over a decade. This sort of thing has been the vogue, and it's showing no signs of abating at all. And as I say, you know, they're pushing boundaries a little bit more, you know. So there may come a time corrupt governments may have to keep their subjected masses, you know, happy and entertained. They do it already with Ant and Dec in this country. Oh, that's spoon-fed to us, and the sheep will flock to it, you know, to keep away from the real prescient matters of the day. Yes, like the fact you can't get an NHS appointment, you can't get a dentist, you can't get this, you can't afford your shopping. Olive oil has gone up to like 16 pounds for a bottle like that big. Are you kidding me? It's the war in the Ukraine. It's driven prices up. No, whatever. But don't worry, you can watch Ant and Dec Saturday Night Takeaway. Yeah! Fun, fun, fun. Forget all your problems and your troubles. Well, that's exactly the whole ethos behind The Running Man. So it's not that far-fetched. Now, another thing about this is that when Stephen King wrote that, you didn't have like CCTV on every street corner, digital mapping, GPS. You didn't have mobile phones and smartwatches which could be tracked everywhere. You didn't have any of that then. So you could blend in. You could put a disguise on and run about the town, get on trains and buses. You could get away with it. Nowadays, you can't get away with that. So here's the other thing that will have to be analysed and updated, because Edgar Wright's version with Michael Bacall is going to have to take, well, he didn't see that as being the future, but we know we're living, this is going to be in the future. We've got that technology now, so how are we going to get away with it? Well, there is that angle, but there's a certain couple of franchises, maybe 3 franchises, which have got away with that quite surprisingly well. First and foremost, one of the biggest bugbears I have with an otherwise great franchise is Jason Bourne. Jason Bourne. Everybody in the world, all the assets of the world are after him. But he still goes from country to country, place to place, never changing his appearance. Going through airports, going through train stations, gets away with it every time. And that's with all the shadowy, CIA and FBI and technology that we've got and spy systems, he still gets away with it. The other 2 franchises, of course, Mission Impossible. Although you do see Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. He does put like some goofy teeth in and a fake beard and some glasses and a woolly hat to pass through an airport in one of them. I can't remember which one now. And it was quite nice to see him do something. But they, of course, have mask technology as well, so they can do that shit. And they've got loads of techno on their side, courtesy of Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg, great friend and collaborator with Edgar Wright. Thank God they haven't got Simon Pegg playing Ben Richards. That really wouldn't work, would it? Although he's meant to be just a common man, so could be. And Simon Pegg is a good actor as well, and was dead gung ho in Hot Fuzz. The Run. Oh God, Angel. What was his name? Was he Sergeant Angel? Brilliant film. But so, and the other franchise would be James Bond. But Bond is Bond. But he doesn't change his appearance, does he? Okay, slightly he changes it in You Only Live Twice, where he has to blend in with the Japanese. So he just brush his hair forward a little bit and sort of bushy, make his eyebrows even bushier than they were to begin with for Sean Connery. And that's Japanese, is it? Well, okay. But so Bond, Bourne, but Bourne is ridiculous in this respect. I love those movies, but it's so patently stupid when they're adhering to, what we think of espionage and shadowy covert organisations and government, institutions with hitmen and assassins and all that. It's what we like to believe they're like. They're not like that at all, by the way. But they're worse. But he doesn't make any attempt to disguise himself. Not one fucking attempt anywhere. Just walk straight through airports. Hello, I look like Jason Bourne. And of course the head sheds always spot him. They've got all the people, crunching data and looking at million surveillance screens. We've got him here. Patch me in. Send asset number. Oh, fuck off. Just cut to the next action scene, which is all they do anyway. So, The Running Man, a faithful adaptation, set in the future. You're gonna have to have all that technology in place. You can't not have it there unless, oh my God, say it's a crossover with Escape from LA, where Snake Plissken has busted the well back down to the Stone Age at the end of it. So they haven't got the techno. But if you haven't got the techno, you haven't got a TV show, have you? So it's not gonna work. So I think they have got their work cut out for them to try to adapt this and bring it into what we now know as the modern age, but sort of nudge it a few years ahead. As I say, the concept isn't that far-fetched. It simply isn't. But it's how you adapt it and manipulate it and make it believable to us. And it will be very dark. It's got to be dark, very violent, very tragic, very brutal. You can't have a happy ending to this. You just can't do it. Now, Edgar Wright, as I said before, he has been fascinated by this story and has wanted to make this. He's always sort of doing the original version and doing an adaptation of that. And yet he loves the 87 ridiculous remix as well. But the films he's done, yeah, comedies, sort of high-octane fantasies, and a nod to the giallos with Last Night in Soho. But he's done action. He's done a darker theme. The apocalypse, for Christ's sake, He's done all that in 3 movies, addressed the whole thing about that. So he's not alien to this kind of concept of a downbeat nihilistic story. It's just the way that you tell it. Now, I would presume for this, you're going to take out all the humour. I mean, there's no humour in the original story. There's tons in the movie, of course. You know, I'm gonna throw up. Go ahead, won't show on this shirt. You know, what accent was that? Certainly wasn't Arnie's. But and there's tons of humour in it. You know, like, follow me light ball, follow me Christmas tree. When Dynamo was going after him, da 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 da. And you've got Arnie's best buddy. He's in many Arnie movies. He's in Gladiator as well, speaking of Colosseum in the arena, Maximus. He's Tigris of Gaul. Sven Ole Thorsen, who's in many Arnie movies, just in small doses, you know, just a walk-on character sort of thing. Usually getting killed by Arnie as well. Well, he plays Killian's big security guard, who's just in a suit, strutting about. And you think these two are going to actually have a bit of a fight. And at the end, when like Killian says, like, you know, he said, yeah, you were saying, as this big bodyguard walks out, and Ben Richards is just like, are we going to fight? And he's like, well, what's going to happen? And he's already skitted him for steroids and all that, like steroid use. And Sven Ole Thorsen just goes, horribly accented, I got to score some steroids. And then just walks off. And Killian's like, shit, in you go, into the pod. I may not have been TV as long as you, Killian, but I know I've learned something already. And I'm a quick learner. Always give the public what they want. Oh no, it is good fun, but it is daft at the same time. And I know Arnie was saying, I believe this or not, Arnie himself said he wanted to make The Running Man 2. Now, he only said this in the last year or so. Oh, really? Well, what would that be? Running Man 2. You've got away with it. Your running days are over. And you've walked off into the sunset with Maria Conchita Alonso. Happy days indeed. My God. I still... Oh, Maria. Maria, can you call around soon? And on your way, can you pick up a couple of bottles of whiskey, please? None of your tequila, none of that, none of that. I want whiskey. Scotch. Really, don't worry. Loads more will slide back down. So I'll get another couple of slugs out of that. I'm not talking about mezcal slugs there. But so I'm all for this. I think it sounds great. I think Edgar Wright is a great choice for it. High octane visuals, beautifully filmed movies, a real sense of pace and momentum. You'd have to ditch the sense of humour part which he brings to a lot of these movies. That has no place in The Running Man. The ending. Well, oh my God, if that is the ending, and I've not only spoilt the novel, I've spoilt the bloody movie as well. Oh, whatever. Whatevers. Do you reckon they're going to do that? Do you reckon they go to that extreme? Or will he survive? If he manages to win and take out Killian and the network, expose them for what they are, and lead an uprising, can he just go back to his wife and daughter and live happily ever after? If you do that, you've completely sanitized and watered down the entire concept. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. Please don't do that. I know in today's age, I mean, Christ, can you imagine if Disney got hold of this? God. Well, Ben wouldn't be Ben Richards, would he? She. They. You know, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But and it wouldn't be a yellow spandex romper suit. With lots of pinks and purples in there, wouldn't there? You know, all the colours of pride. So no, Edgar Wright's not going to do any stupidity like that. Disney's not involved in this. So I'm looking forward to it, but it's not. They haven't even begun to make it yet. It's just in the fast development. So they've clearly got a script in order, and they've now cast Glen Powell. So yeah, looking good. It's on the fast tracks. Scheduled for a 2025 release. That's only next year. This has the capacity for being quite a big epic movie as well. Like, I think in the book he's on the run for 8 days, which is more than anyone else has survived for, because no one else has survived it at all. But I forget, if you make it to, is it a week? Actually, not a week. 8 days is more than a week. Come on, Killman. Fucking think, will you? I'm not sure how long. If they get to a certain point, obviously, then, or they've killed all the hunters, then, you know, you win the $1 billion. And but I think there's also a timeline which I've forgotten now. But he outlasts everybody else who's been on the game show by 8 days, and Killian knows this. And there's only one of our prize hitmen left, and you've wounded him, you know. And you're flying a plane, and they're flying it. He's flying it super low as well, over the land and the buildings, so they can't fire any surface-to-air missiles at him. See, King was thinking about all this, you know, but that's not how things work in today's world, or today's version of tomorrow's world. But I do hope they have a great soundtrack. All of Edgar Wright's movies have had great soundtracks, even when they're not nicking from other people, you know, which a lot of them are. Very Tarantino-esque, you know. Oh, speaking of Tarantino, that Michael Bacall who's writing this with Edgar Wright, he did Inglourious Basterds and Death Proof as well. And I think he wrote Scott Pilgrim for Edgar Wright. But here's Harold Faltermeyer. This is my favourite track of the score. It's a really great, pulsating, exciting synth track. In the film, however, even though it's a big battle, it's not very good. And this sounds better and more energized than the actual fight that you do see in the movie. And Paul Michael Glaser directed Starsky from Starsky and Hutch. I've never got my head around that. I love Starsky and Hutch, and Starsky was a progenitor for Martin Riggs. I've discussed all this before, and but how did he get to do this? To work with Arnie and direct what was then, a big sci-fi blockbuster. I know it's got its fans, and don't get me wrong, I do love this movie, but I don't rate it very highly. It's just not that good, and it's a lot of languid, limp-wristed action scenes. Listen to this. Oh, there's the original vinyl album there. Ah, it's gorgeous. There's almost like, a bass guitar being plucked there. It's not, it's pure, it's all electronic. And it's going to kick in with that rhythm again, that beat. Arnie just does not look good in this movie. Aside from the romper suit, he's got that audible side part, not his flat top. And when he goes into ditches the romper suit, the big banana, and he puts on, like, I don't know, just really shit clothes and a shit, Werkies vest, like a salmon coloured tie. Just after looking so good in so many of his movies. Ah, gorgeous. And I don't think that's too upbeat a sound for a realistic, nihilistic adaptation. It's still got a raw edge to it, pulsating dynamic quality. A last ditch run. Sorry, I love it. Let's see if I can get a final drag out of this. You can see the sun there. So what you do, Start it pouring before you get your mouth to it. Send it on its way. Every last drop, you know, it all counts. It's all worth it. That's a great track, love that. So would you have Arnie as a cameo in it? You could do it. No, not as Killian. Oh, and I've seen some jokey stuff of who would you have to play Killian? Well, it's got to be, Richard Dawson was a TV host, very famous TV host. A lot of catchphrases and a great personality. He was perfect for the role of Killian. Who would you have now? Oh God, Ant and Dec would do it. Oh, it would be. Or, you know, Alan Carr, Chatty Man. You know. Or that fat pillock off Gavin and Stacey, that fat blurt that made it out to Hollywood, did a talk show for a couple of years and then got fucking booted back again. James Corden, is that it? Fucking sack of offal. Absolute bell end. But yeah, I could even see that. With Edgar Wright doing it, you could have guest spotting like that. It could be Simon Pegg. Because the guy he's got to appeal to the crowd, to the masses, to the audience. So we know he's a twat, but he's not going to come across like that. It'll be smarmy, it'll be slimy. Because that's the essence of, you know, a good TV show host. So who would you have? Maybe the pedo Prince Andrew? I don't know. But anyway, folks, so that's a bit of news. The Running Man is going ahead with a more faithful adaptation of Stephen King, Richard Bachman's original novel. And I think it sounds great. It's a rough, nasty story. It really is. You know, and it's got one of the bleakest, nastiest conclusions. So you've got to be a brave man to adapt that and be true to its source. It just depends how true and faithful he's going to be. It could be spectacular, you know, it really could. What's the last downbeat ending we had in a movie, a big movie? I mean, in the last couple of years. And I don't mean The Mist. It must have been something. I mean, yeah, we go back to the 80s, it happened a lot, you know. Our heroes die at the end of They Live. Our heroes are alive at the end of The Thing, but not for long. And I know it's John Carpenter, but he's the king of bleak endings. And Snake Plissken consigns the world to a third world war at the end of Escape from New York. And then at the end of Escape from LA, he sends it back to the Stone Age. Heartless bastard, isn't he? But there's many other examples of things not working out and the heroes not making it to the end of the final credits. Anyway, there you go, folks. The Running Man, courtesy of Edgar Wright. And yeah, I think it could be a winner. And let's hope so. That time we had a proper full-on adaptation of Stephen King. I know, Stephen King adaptations they're 10 a penny, aren't they? There's millions of them. But none of them really follow what he's written. None of them. Which in some cases is a good thing, but folks, I have been Always Shabby Kiltman. Please, in the meantime, in this ever keep on running. In between time, please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic, and watch your back because the stalkers are after you. And I'm going to see you all in a rerun. Heroes! That Kiltman. I choose Kiltman. I can choose who I want, and I choose Kiltman. He's one mean motherfucker.